Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. But whatever you do, keep it spicy. Five-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. I'm a little flustered this morning. I've been holding my tongue almost all night. And it's a shame because today is signing day and it's supposed to be a happy day. It's supposed to be a joyous day. And I promise that after this pod is over, I'm going to jump into the mode of celebrating these young men and women and their accomplishment. But I got to talk about this Brian Flores stuff. Oh, Miami. Oh, Miami. Oh, you thought that because Brian Flores was anxious, because he was thirsty, because he was all of the words that we use when someone really wants something. You believed that because he wanted to be a head coach so bad that you could fire him for no legitimate reason and him be quiet. You thought that. God bless you. You almost got away with it. If it wasn't for the New York Giants, there's a good chance you would have gotten away with it. See, because the New York Giants thought that they could bring that man in for a bogus interview when they knew who they were giving the job to already. See, I don't know if y'all remember or not, but I came on here when Brian Daboll got the job and I said, no black head coaches hired yet. I said, it's funny to me that Brian Flores got hired in less than Brian Flores got interviewed and less than 24 hours later, they hired Brian Daboll. Now we get word from Flores himself, not just the word of somebody who's upset because he didn't get a job, but the words of somebody who has legitimate beef. This isn't somebody who's just trying to cause trouble because he couldn't hack it and, the time had passed him by and this was his last opportunity to cash in. This is a young coach in the prime of his coaching career, coming off of back-to-back winning seasons for an organization. Even if he didn't get a job this year, at some point he was going to get a job. You're telling me that man with that knowledge and that resume and that type of integrity fabricated this story out of thin air about two different organizations and the sleazy, slimy stuff that they were doing within it that they used him as a pawn to try to create. You're telling me that man who's been known as a straight shooter, who's one of his issues that came out of Miami was that he didn't have tact, that he didn't know how to relate to the young players. So now that guy pulled essentially what would be a young move, which is to blame people for something they have no actual blame in. Nah, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me that Brian Flores is the model of integrity and one of the coaches that does it the right way and then say, well, he didn't do it the right way. Less than 24 hours after Brian Flores comes public with his lawsuit, the NFL has the audacity to release a statement saying that the allegation is baseless. Like, for real, man. We can't make this up. If you're somebody in the media, you are eating this up. You're eating this up. Because somebody is going to pay a lot of money. And it's not going to be Brian Flores. But this man, essentially, and we all know the game, so he's done. He's done as a head coach. radioactive as a head coach. So you're telling me that this man worked his entire life to get to a level where he could be a head coach in the NFL, only to achieve that goal, have success, be unwarrantedly fired, then instead of doing like Raheem Morris has been doing for the past umpteen years, working his way back up the ladder to try to get another opportunity, he just said, nah, fam, I've been a hard worker all my life and I'm tired of being a hard worker. I want it the easy way now. I'm just going to blame everybody with no real legitimate. Stop it. You dirty shiesty. This man says, and we're going to say this man says, so because there's an opportunity, probably not a good one. Let's be real about it. There's an opportunity that he's lying. So we have to give the other side their due. But it doesn't look good. The same way all of you crucified Deshaun Watson before he ever had an opportunity to defend himself, before any of this ever came out in the courtroom, you've already decided that he's going to jail for crimes that don't actually give you a jail time. You all decided that he was a rapist and not just maybe a creep, which is what those crimes suggest. He's a creep, not a rapist. You all decided that he should never play in the NFL again, and that it was a travesty that the Houston Texans were paying him not to play. The same way that you did that, you didn't wait for any adjudication, any day in court, is the same way you should be flaming the New York Giants and the Miami Dolphins today. And guess what? When all this comes out to be true, and I really and truly believe it will, people should pay with their careers. The new GM of the Giants should be fired. Without a doubt. He should lose his job. This is a fireable offense. If you're going to make a mockery of the Rooney Rule, then you should be fired. Because if you're not fired, then what are we saying about the rule? We're saying that the rule doesn't matter, which we all kind of know, but you've all been trying to tell us, no, it's real. So when we find out that they really did already, there's reasonable doubt that they've already had it in place that they were going to hire Brian Daboll, and they went out there and wasted this man Brian Flores' time interviewing him so that they could satisfy the Rooney Rule with a candidate that's actually qualified to be a head coach. See, that's the thing, right? The one problem that I have with the Rooney Rule is that it says you got to interview black candidates. But to me, you should interview black candidates who are actually qualified and have merit to be head coaches. So, yeah, Patrick Graham's done a good job, but is Patrick Graham really a head coach right now? I don't know. I know that his resume doesn't read like Brian Flores' resume does. So when you hire Brian Flores, anybody that comes back and says, hey, what about the Rooney Rule? You go, we interviewed Brian Flores. Look at his resume. It was a sham. The man has text messages from one of the most locked in, connected people in the game. Now, if those text messages are authenticated, what are we talking about? What are we talking about here? The Giants GM should lose his job. Bottom line. It's not a matter of whether or not I like him or dislike him, or whether I think he was a good hire. At the end of the day, Joe Schoen, and I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right, if it comes out that Joe Schoen interviewed Brian Flores with already knowing that he was going to hire Brian Daboll, and already had let it out to other people that he was going to hire Brian Dable and not Brian Flores, which clearly happened because how else would Belichick know? He should be fired. Dude, we can never trust any of your decisions again. And guess what? Guess what? If he was going to hire Patrick Graham and he interviewed Brian Dable, knowing that he had already told people he was going to hire Patrick Graham, if he had wasted Brian Dable's time, he should probably be fired still. But there's no rule in that in place. There's a rule in place for this other situation. And he broke the rule. So he should be fired. Not, oh, he should be reprimanded, not suspended, not away from the team for undisclosed amount of time, not we're going to pay this fine, whatever. Money does not matter. The NFL prints money. So you're not going to hurt the NFL with money. You want to know what a sham the NFL is? When it comes to money, they donated $1 million to do cannabinoid research. $1 million. Really? $1 million. There's how many teams? Everybody go in your wallet. Everybody go in your wallet, grab like 50,000, put it in the pot. We'll give it to people to do research for cannabis as a pain replacement for these opioids that are getting our players addicted and ultimately killing them. See, nobody talks about that with the CTE stuff either. Is it just the hits to the head, or is it the hits to the head mixed with all the drugs these guys have to take as well? We know that the NFL is a shiesty game. We know it can be a shiesty place. But when you're sitting here talking about the livelihood of men and women who have dedicated their lives, and the only time you want to show them love is when you want to make it feel as if, oh, well, we care about. Watch all of these shiesty, all of these disingenuous Black History Month things that come from the NFL, while they sit back and actively oppress a Black man who was a head coach, who went to interview for a head coach and was essentially not even let in the room because they already had the decision made. This is the world that we're dealing with right now. This is the life that we're living in. This is what guys like Brian Flores have to deal with. And this is why people need to pay with their jobs. If we find out that it really was, that there really was a situation going on in Miami where the owner was trying to get his head coach to break rules and tamper in order to get a prominent quarterback, if that comes out, he should be made to sell his team. Like we can fake things and that aren't true, and that's cool, but if we're not going to have any integrity of the game, then what are we doing here? If we're not going to have any integrity of the game, then what are we doing? Why are we doing it? What's the purpose? You guys want to hold these players' feet to the fire. You want to make them out as if they have to be perfect human beings. Anytime they're not, you murder them. And then you just continually let the billionaires in the room get away with murder. You let them get away with all of the shiesty stuff. As people, we should all be on the player side. Nobody should be on ownership side. We don't have anything in common with these people. Even if you feel like a player is wrong in a situation, even if you feel like a player is wrong, you can understand, because he's human and you're human and you've made mistakes, that mistakes happen. But instead, we crucify them and we put them away forever. Meanwhile, we continue to let these owners get away with this fraud of a Rooney Rule. I can't even count how many black coaches have been interviewed for jobs. Not one hired yet. We already know how many black head coaches exist. One. It's exhausting. I wrote a column about it, about the dearth of black head coaches, my gene therapy column. Go and check that out on CWN Sports. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get it, to fight the fights that need to be fought. But this right here, this has to be the line in the sand. And unfortunately, like I said before, the change is not going to come from the outside. It's not going to come from media. It's not going to come from fans, because we're going to watch football regardless. The change, if it's going to happen, must come from the players. And it sucks that you guys have to be the people to get this done. But it has to come from you. You guys have to sit back and say, we're not playing if we don't have X amount of head coaches looking like us. Right now, you could do it. Right now, I believe there's still a game, like 6 or 7, maybe more head coaching openings. Right? I believe that there's a good amount of head coaching vacancies right now. I'm gonna double check because I want to make sure. There's 6 head coaching openings, right? 6 left. So you could come out and say, hey, if you do not hire 6 black head coaches, we're not playing. And if they think you're joking, call their bluff. Integration wasn't done peacefully. Integration took people, it wasn't done just talking. Action had to be done. Integration happens when people put themselves in the way and go, we're no longer going to stand for this. And unfortunately, this comes down to the players. I don't know if you have it in you. I don't. Because I've seen you guys at the negotiating table when it comes to your contracts. I've seen how you guys have folded to the pressure when it comes to the collective bargaining agreement. But I'm telling you guys, you have power. You have power. Use your power. And your power is we don't have to play. And this is different than, oh, well, it's a money thing. We don't have to play. If you sit down and say we're not playing because we want to see representation at the head coach position, people outside then are going to support that, because that's not millionaires arguing with billionaires. That's black men and white men in an organization standing up for something greater than themselves. And you won't have to worry about anybody crossing the picket line. You won't have to worry about anybody. You won't have to worry about the scabs. There won't be any. Those people, you think a black man is going to come across a picket line where you're boycotting the NFL because they don't want to have black head coaches? You think a black man is going to come across that line to play running back in this diluted product and now have to look at all his black people in the face for the rest of his life? By the way, making money that's not even generational money. Because they're not going to play a replacement player ding-a-ling. So it's in your hands now. All we can do is yell at the microphone. Type on the keys. That's all we can do. You guys have the power. You have to use it. Because this isn't going to change. No. Because we always know that anytime something is exposed, the roots are so deep. The roots are so deep that we don't even know how far they go. That's scary. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. But whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star rating, so I appreciate it. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Till next time, peace.